Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a minute since we dropped a double upload on the Bobby Reacts channel, but right after we dropped our video about all the content that's coming up to next season of COD Mobile, we got the new announcement for Seoul's updated COD Mobile roster. This is something people have been talking about for a long time. Obviously, if you watch CDM Season 9, the roster that they had just didn't really live up to standards. Maybe not to standards necessarily that people expected from the roster itself, but just from kind of the Seoul name. So the previous roster was kind of a conglomeration of former Vitality and Godlike players. It definitely didn't work out. I think they finished last or tied for last in the entirety of CDM. But today they announced their new roster, and I'm very, very intrigued. So the gameplay that we're watching right now is actually Viper and Godlike going up against the new Seoul roster. Viper actually drops a 70 bomb in this one, which is kind of insane because we're almost through the entirety of the first hard point. And he's got a total of 1 kill, so he's got to go absolutely bananas at some point here. But we do obviously have the official roster itself, so we'll go ahead and throw that up on the screen. We'll have the gameplay in the background. As you guys can see, and this was kind of expected, it's a bit of a mix between old Vitality and some other players as well. Obviously, with Marvel being one of those main Vitality players that you'd expect to be on there. Trunks, who I was curious whether or not he was actually still going to be with the roster. We do have Sams and Jokos, obviously, as those are kind of the staples of what has remained of this team. And then we also have Fran, who's formerly of Kagendra, and we got Jez, formerly of Tribe. I don't think he's actually ever played for anybody outside of Tribe in NA as far as I can remember. I had heard rumors that Jez would be one of the players that was getting added into the rotation, but I honestly didn't really think it was going to happen, but I don't hate the pickup. So taking a look at the team, obviously one of the things you take into consideration is the weapon roles. You've got Marvel, who's a sniper in Search and Destroy, and then an AR main. You got Jokos, who's typically sniper and AR main as well, so you got both of your snipers knocked out there. Interestingly enough, Fran is also, from the footage that I've seen, traditionally an assault rifle main. Jez is a flex, so that means he can kind of play both AR and SMG, kind of similarly to what we see Zai doing. And then we have Trunks, who's an SMG, and Sams, who's an SMG. So obviously more AR presence there, and especially with the Type 63 becoming one of the dominant guns in the game, I would not be surprised if we see one of those AR mains. If I had to guess, probably either Marvel or Jokos switching over to Type 63, and we could very well see 3 ARs, 1 SMG, 1 Type 63. A lot of it is likely going to depend on the existing meta in the game. I'm guessing that VMP is going to be very heavily used in upcoming seasons, given the fact that not only has the USS received a couple nerfs, but also the fact that it has the damage magazine restricted in competitive play. That would make me think the VMP is going to be relatively dominant. And once again, we don't know who's actually going to be starting. The one thing that I'm now remembering that I forgot to mention is that Zim and Callie are the coach and analyst for the team. So obviously, Seoul looked at the way Vitality performed last year. Obviously, they didn't win the World Championships, but they won India. And by the way the last Seoul roster was performing, they did not look remotely close to winning India Stage 4. So putting some faith in him and being able to put together a roster that is going to be able to dominate. I don't know when Viper's going to start popping off in this one because he's only got 13, and we're like a full rotation through right here. I mean, he's not that far down from the top, but he's got to start super locking in right here. We've also seen a lot of gameplays over the past couple of weeks of basically teams clipping the new Seoul roster. There could probably be a few different reasons for it. It could be, number one, that the roster's not that good. I don't think that's the case. I think you look at the overall talent, the overall experience on this roster, the coaches, the analysts that they have. I don't think this is going to be a bad team. I'm not necessarily saying I think that this team is going to win CDM, but I think they will be competitive. I think one thing is obviously the fact they don't have a ton of time together, and we've seen the factor that having those hours, that chemistry together plays, especially at the highest level of the game. The other thing is, I have no idea either currently or in the past couple of weeks which of these players are actually playing from India. One thing is, Jez actually lives in Hawaii, I believe. So if he is not in India, is playing on basically the complete opposite side of the world. Obviously, you have Fran, who's not too terribly far away. And then you have Marvel, who's in EU, which is really not the end of the world as far as ping goes, but Jez would certainly be very, very far away whenever it comes to the scrims and what's going on. I would presume that all these players are going to be moving to India to play in in CDM 10. We don't have the official dates for that yet. Well, you guys don't have the official dates for that yet. They should be getting announced relatively soon. And obviously, we'll probably have another video kind of talking about those whenever they do end up coming up. But it will be very interesting to see. As far as what I expect out of the roster, just looking at recent performances in events, number one, especially if the team's going to be competing in India, my assumption is anybody that is going out of their own country to compete probably would not be expecting to not having a starting spot. So my assumption is that one of the players that would not be starting would be somebody that's currently living in India, and especially given that Sams and Jokos are just kind of a staple of whatever roster that they're on, my expectation would be that Trunks is the player that takes a back seat. He didn't really look amazing for Seoul in the last season. Didn't really seem super motivated, and that's obviously something that could change, but was not putting up normals that were conventional for him. And obviously part of it will be experimenting with what they have right now, the players they have. They'll try out lots of different lineups, different weapon compositions, and everything else. But if I had to guess, I would think that the starting roster would probably be Sams, Jokos, Jez, Fran, and Marvel. I would say 99.9% chance that Marvel is starting. Everybody else, maybe slightly lower chance, but once again, I would be very surprised if we saw somebody uproot their lives, move to India, and not have a starting spot. I don't think that's something that many players would really commit to. So obviously, we'll still have to wait and see on that one. And we'll also be able to get a better idea of how they're performing. I mean, they're going up against Godlike right here, and they're looking pretty freaking solid. Obviously, this is only one map, but I think by a lot of the clips that you would watch, you would get the impression that they're just getting mollywopped by every single team. And once again, there's a possibility that they are getting mollywopped by a lot of teams because of the factors that I talked about previously, not having that chemistry, not having a set starting five, maybe not all being in the same location as well. But hopefully with the coach and the analyst that they have in place, they'll be able to at least be competitive at a relatively high level. And once again, we have new teams getting introduced. I believe there was an event that happened today where Accelerate faced Godlike in the grand finals of an event, and Accelerate just got absolutely mollywopped, which is not too terribly surprising. They're a somewhat new roster, and Godlike are Godlike. You know, at the end of the day, when it comes to competing for a Stage 4 championship in India, Godlike are the final boss there. So obviously, come CDM, there's a whole different beast. You got reportedly new rookies that are getting added into the rotation for X-Rock. We've already seen the power of the rookies on Wolves just across the board. Those are very, very powerful teams. I'm also curious to see if we're finally going to have a set roster for OUG. You would think that with the amount of time that they've had off, they'll probably find something there. And this has got to be a crazy comeback for Godlike here as well. We're down like 60 points, and once again, Viper's got 30 kills away from whatever the title of the video is. So he's just got to go absolutely bananas right here. We do see the VMP in play for somebody on their team. Not sure who that is. Maybe Abiz? His name is Abu Abiz. Maybe the same person. But no surprise, I think Godlike are kind of sticking with the roster that they had previously. I think Warden will remain on the bench. There's a possibility that we'll see that rotate from respawns, especially in CDM format. Although I think we're actually switching, now that I think about it. I don't think they're going to remain at only at 3 S&Ds per best of 5, I think it's going to be moving into the champs map setup, which is definitely good for preparing teams for the upcoming World Championship. Also, I forgot to say this at the beginning. I'm aware that there's no gameplay here. For some reason, Viper decided to be a goofball and use copyrighted music as his background music. So you guys have muted gameplay, but you still have gameplay nonetheless. He's got, what, 46 right here. Once again, I don't know. The title said 70, right? 70? We're this far in, he's going to finish with 70? I don't even know how that's possible. This has got to be absolutely insane. Should be an interesting upcoming season. We have the number 2 seed in Japan in Exceed, who's going to be competing. I believe they had a show match versus Godlike, and I think they got 3-0'd. Obviously, maybe ping differential there, but also Godlike or Godlike, you know? So he's, oh yeah, there we go. All right, crazy feed with the equalizers. Let's see, we need 17 more, and once again, they've got to make a comeback happen. I think he's got like double for what the majority of his teammates have, so this is absolutely bonkers. Also, him on the XM4 is not something I feel like we've seen a ton. I feel like he's usually been either Type 63 or SMG, as far as what I can remember, but it'll be interesting. We might be able to figure out who the different operators are for Soul, or who the different players are for Soul based on the operators that we're seeing. I did see a Tempest come out. Trying to think if there's anybody that I think like stereotypically is a Tempest. I could see Marvel being a Tempest main. I didn't really watch much of what was happening in EU for I guess it was EU SPS was the most recent thing that they've had going on right there. I know they have there's like a union of COD events that is run an EU versus Africa thing that I think Africa actually ended up winning. But once again, Marvel taken out of the talent pool for EU, no question, going to weaken things. Very solid leader, too. So I think that one of the big things that felt like it was missing for Soul last season was a little bit of leadership. I know that Jokos is the IGL, but I think the experience that comes with leadership is a big thing, too, and I think Marvel can bring a lot for them. So it looks like Godlike does end up coming away with the win. No surprise. We knew Viper was going to go crazy. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Where's the awareness? Oh, they just served up the kills on a silver platter. There's kill number 70. Oh, my gosh. All right. I'll link the video down below if you guys want to check it out with audio. That's going to be it for this one. Hope you guys enjoy. Drop a like if you did, and we'll catch you in the next one.